Welcome to Talk Treatises.
Hello there.
I have to admit, I woke up this morning with a distinct sense of, let's call it intellectual trepidation.
I can imagine. This isn't one of the straightforward ones.
Not at all. Usually on these deep dives, we're tackling things that fit, neatly into a box. We do ethics, we do political theory, we do literature. But today
is different.
Today, we are walking into a labyrinth. We are tackling a text that is arguably the most ambitious, confusing, and for a very long time, the most influential book ever written in the Western tradition.
It certainly is. It's a text that tries to explain literally everything.
Everything.
From the mind of God and the birth of the universe down to the geometry of dirt and the anatomy of the human liver. It's a total system. We
are talking, of course, about Plato's Timaeus. And if you're joining us today, you're likely the kind of person who doesn't mind when a dinner party conversation pivots from pass the salt to what is the fundamental mathematical structure of the cosmos?
Because that is exactly the vibe we are going for.
Right. We want to treat this not as some dusty museum piece, but as a live wire, something that still sparks.
Which is exactly how it should be treated. Benjamin Jowett, the great Victorian translator of Plato, whose work we're sort of using as our guide today, had this fascinating observation about the Timaeus.
Oh, this is good.
He noted that for centuries, essentially the entire Middle Ages, this was the book. This was played over most of the world.
The only one they had in Latin for a long time.
A very long time. And so when people thought of nature or science, they were thinking in terms of the Timaeus. It was the bridge that carried ancient thought into the medieval world. It was the operating system.
But then Jowett pivots, right? He does a complete 180.
He does. He says that to the modern reader, to us, with our iPhones and our particle accelerators, this text is often the most obscure and repulsive.
Repulsive. That's such a strong word. It's not just difficult or outdated. It's repulsive.
But you can see why he uses it. We live in an age of intense specialization. Biologists don't usually talk about theology, and physicists don't usually talk about poetry or music theory.
And Plato is just throwing it all into one pot.
All of it. He's doing theology, crude physics, geometry, anatomy, and physiology all at once. Jowett points out that the author is trying to conceive the whole of nature without adequate knowledge of the parts. It's a top-down approach.
That's the key context, isn't it? You have to put yourself in his shoes. He doesn't have a microscope. He doesn't have a telescope. Not really. He definitely doesn't have the periodic table.
No. He has his brain. He has geometry, which for the Greeks was almost a religion in itself. And he has this deep burning desire to find order in the chaos.
To prove that it's not all just random.
Exactly. And the intellectual problem he's trying to solve is massive. How do you bring sense, the messy, chaotic, changing world we see with our eyes, under the control of reason? How do you make the chaos make sense mathematically?
So let's unpack this monster. We need to start with the setup, because Plato never just launches into a lecture. He always sets the scene.
It's always a drama.
So we're in Athens. The dramatic date is key. It's the day after the massive conversation in the Republic.
Right. So Socrates has just spent the entire previous day outlining his ideal state. The guardians, the philosopher kings, the community of wives and children, all of that radical and frankly terrifying political theory.
He's built this perfect city in speech.
Oh.
And now, the next morning, he's with his friends, Timaeus, Creaeus, and Hermocrates.
And Socrates is essentially suffering from a theoretical hangover. He's looking a little restless.
He is. He says, look, I've described this perfect society, but it feels like a statue. It's beautiful, it's perfectly proportioned, but it's static. It's not alive. I want to see it move.
He wants the action movie version of his philosophy.
He literally does. He explicitly says he wants to see this ideal state engaged in some great struggle. He wants to know how these perfect guardians would actually behave in a war. It's a challenge to his guests. Tell me a story that puts my theory to the test.
Show me my utopia in action.
And this is where Critias steps up. He says, I have a story, but and this is classic Plato. He can't just tell the story. He has to give it a pedigree.
A chain of custody for the truth.
Exactly. He traces the lineage of this story like a lawyer proving evidence. He says he heard it from his grandfather, who was also named Critias.
And his grandfather heard it from Solon.
And Solon is a heavyweight. He was the wisest of the 7 sages of Greece, the great lawgiver of Athens. You can't get a more credible source.
And Solon didn't just make it up either. He got it from Egypt.
This Egyptian connection is so crucial. I really want to dive into this interaction because it sets up the whole timeline and the whole epistemology of the dialogue. Solon travels to Sais in the Egyptian delta.
Right. And he's doing what any tourist does. He's trying to impress the locals. He's talking to the priests there. And he starts rattling off Greek history, Pharonius, Niobe, the Great Flood of Deucalion.
He's trying to show that the Greeks have deep roots, that they have an ancient history too.
And one of the Egyptian priests just looks at him, and you can picture this weary, ancient smile, and delivers one of the most famous and, frankly, most devastating insults in the history of philosophy.
It's an all-timer.
He says, "Oh, Solon, Solon, you Hellenes are ever young."
Which is a polite way of saying, you Greeks are children.
You are toddlers, and that has to sting. Solon, the wisest man in Greece, is being called a child, so he asks what he means.
And the priest explains that the Greeks have no hoary knowledge. I love that word. They have no old traditions. They're essentially a society of amnesiacs, constantly starting over.
And the reason for this amnesia is what he calls the theory of catastrophes. This is a vital part of the Timaeus worldview. The priest explains that humanity is not on some linear upward path of progress.
We don't just get better and better.
No, it's cyclical. We are periodically destroyed, sometimes by great fires from the sky, sometimes by floods from the sea.
And he demythologizes the Greek myths to explain it. This part just blew my mind. He brings up the myth of Phaethon.
Right, the son of the sun god who stole his dad's chariot, couldn't control the horses, and ended up scorching the earth.
A classic tale of teenage recklessness.
Exactly. But the priest says, look, that's just a nursery rhyme you tell your kids. The truth behind it is astronomical.
What does he say it is?
He says it represents a declination of the bodies moving in the heavens around the Earth. He's describing a cosmic impact, or a massive solar flare, or a comet passing too close some celestial event that causes a massive conflagration on Earth.
Wow, so he's giving a scientific explanation for a mythological story.
He is. And here is the geopolitical twist. When the fires come from the sky, the people in the mountains are wiped out. But Egypt is saved by the Nile. And when the great floods come, wiping out the coastal cities, the water in Egypt wells up gently from below, rather than pouring down from the sky.
So while the rest of the world, including Greece, is getting its libraries washed away and its cities burned to the ground,
Egypt is just sitting there, safe in the Nile Valley, recording everything in their stone temples. The river is their shield against cosmic cycles.
it's an incredible explanation for their cultural stability.
The priest tells Solon, you have to start over like children, illiterate and uncultured, every few thousand years. We, on the other hand, remember what you forget.
And the biggest thing they forgot was the story of Athens itself. This is the big reveal, the moment of the dialogue. The priest tells Solon that 9,000 years before their time, Athens was actually the greatest city on earth.
An ancient primordial Athens.
Founded by the goddess Neith, who the priest says is the Egyptian equivalent of the Greek goddess Athene.
And this ancient Athens was, conveniently, the perfect embodiment of Socrates' ideal state from the Republic. It had the guardian class, the artisans, the whole tripartite structure. It really existed.
And it faced the ultimate test. It faced its ultimate adversary, Atlantis.
We have to pause on Atlantis because pop culture has just completely ruined this for us.
Totally. We think of Aquaman or crystal-powered underwater domes.
Right. But Plato describes a terrifying, expansionist, imperial power. This isn't a fantasy kingdom, it's a geopolitical superpower.
He gets very specific with the geography, too.
Yeah.
He describes Atlantis as an island larger than Libya and Asia combined.
Which to a Greek is basically the entire known world.
Right. And it's sitting right in front of the Pillars of Heracles, what we now call the Straits of Gibraltar. It's blocking the entrance to the Atlantic.
And crucially, the text says the Atlantic was navigable then. Atlantis was the bridge, he says, to a continent on the other side.
Which is just a stunning detail to throw in there. So Atlantis invades. Their goal is total domination. They try to enslave Europe and Asia.
And this is the moment Socrates was waiting for, the ideal state in action. Ancient Athens stands alone. Everyone else deserts them or surrenders.
But the Athenians, these perfect guardians, they don't flinch. They defeat the Atlanteans and liberate the known world. It's the ultimate triumph.
But then comes the catastrophe. It wasn't a military loss that destroyed them. It was a geological erasure.
Violent earthquakes and floods. In a single day and night of misfortune, the entire Athenian warrior class sank into the earth.
And the island of Atlantis sank into the sea, vanished.
Which, the priest claims, is why you can't sail the Atlantic anymore. It's blocked by the impassable mud shoals left over from the sunken island.
A very, very convenient way to stop anyone from, grabbing a boat and going to fact check the story.
Extremely convenient. But we should note, as Jowett does, that this is almost certainly what Plato would call a noble lie, or at least a powerful literary device. He's inventing a lost history to give his philosophical utopia a grounding in the real world.
He's saying, my republic isn't just a dream I had, it existed once and it was glorious and it saved the world. It's an act of patriotic myth-making.
So that's the frame, that's the appetizer.
Yeah.
A massive, world-spanning story of war and cataclysm. But then Critias says, okay, we've done the history, we've seen the ideal state in motion. Now we need the science. We need the cosmology.
And he hands the floor to Timaeus.
And Timaeus is introduced as the astronomer of the group. He's the natural philosopher. And the task he is given is monumental. Explain the universe.
From the very beginning. Start with the birth of the cosmos and end with the nature of man. No small task.
Not at all. And the tone shifts immediately. We leave the dinner party banter and we enter the lecture hall. Timaeus starts with an invocation to the gods.
Which is interesting, right? He says even a prudent man invokes the gods before a small enterprise. So for a universe-sized enterprise, he definitely needs their help to ensure his words are acceptable.
It's an admission of humility right at the start. And then he lays down the foundation, the first principles. He draws a massive line in the sand between two fundamental types of reality.
Two questions. First, what is that which always is and has no becoming?
And second, what is that which is always becoming and never is?
This is the bedrock of Platonism. If you don't get this distinction, none of the rest of it makes sense.
Okay, so let's make sure we have this absolutely clear for everyone. That which always is. This is the realm of being, with a capital B.
Yes. Being is apprehended by intelligence and pure reason. It is unchangeable, eternal, perfect. Think of a mathematical concept, like the idea of a circle or the number 2.
The idea of a circle never changes. It doesn't rust, it doesn't decay, it doesn't get old, it just is.
Exactly. It's the world of the forms, the perfect, unchanging blueprints for everything.
And then there's that which is always becoming.
That's the physical world, the world of our sensory experience, the table you're sitting at, the microphone, your own body. These things, they come into existence, they change, they decay, and eventually they vanish.
They're always in a state of flux. They're flickering.
They never truly are in that permanent, eternal sense.
Yeah.
They're always on their way to being something else or on their way to not being at all.
So Timaeus looks at the universe, the whole visible cosmos, the sun, the stars, the earth, and asks, which bucket does this fall into? Is it a being thing or a becoming thing?
Yeah. And the answer is obvious to him. It is visible. It is tangible. It has a body. Therefore, it belongs to the realm of becoming. It was created. It had a beginning.
And if it was created, it must have a cause, a maker. And here enters the most famous figure in the text, the Demiurge, the father and maker of the universe.
Demiurge is such a fascinating word. In Greek, demiurgos literally means craftsman or artisan or public worker. This is really important.
He's not the Christian God.
No, not at all. He doesn't create ex nihilo out of nothing. The demiurge is more like a master carpenter or a divine architect. He takes pre-existing materials, a chaotic, disorderly mess, and he shapes them. He imposes order.
He's a cosmic organizer. Yeah. And Timaeus asks a crucial question about this architect. When he was designing the world, did he look at an eternal pattern or a created temporary pattern?
This is the quality control check. It's a logical proof. Timaeus argues, the world is fair, it's beautiful, it's good, and the creator, the demiurge, is good.
Okay, two premises.
Right. Since a good creator would naturally want to make the best possible thing, he must have looked at the eternal pattern, the perfect blueprint. If he had looked at a temporary changing pattern, the world would be a second-rate, shoddy piece of work.
But it's not. The cosmos is beautiful. Therefore, the pattern must have been eternal.
The logic is airtight. The physical universe is a copy. It is a moving, breathing, physical statue modeled after an eternal, unchangeable idea.
I love that, a moving, breathing statue.
And this leads directly to the most important disclaimer in the entire book. Timaeus pauses and calls his whole lecture a likely story, or in Greek, an eikos mythos.
A probable myth. This is such a cool concept. It's pure epistemological humility.
It is. He's managing expectations. He says, as being is to becoming, so is truth to belief.
Whoa, say that again.
As being is to becoming, so is truth to belief. In other words, when we talk about the eternal world of being, about math, about logic, we can have truth, certainty. But because we are now discussing the physical world, the world of becoming the copy,
We can't have certainty.
we can't. The physical world is squishy, it changes, so our account of it can only ever be probable or likely. He's warning us, Don't expect the certainty of 2 + 2 = 4 when we're discussing physics or biology. We're doing our best with the evidence we have.
That's incredibly modern in a way. It's a statement about the limits of scientific knowledge.
It really is.
So we have a good creator making a copy of an eternal pattern, and our knowledge of it is a likely story. But why did he do it? What's the motive? Was he bored? Was he lonely?
No, Timaeus is very clear on this. And it's a beautiful idea. He was good, and the good can never have any jealousy of anything.
What does jealousy mean there?
It's not about envy. It means a kind of cosmic stinginess, hoarding existence. A truly good being, Timaeus argues, wouldn't keep all the goodness in order to itself. It would want to share it.
So goodness is diffusive. It spills over. It wants to create more good things.
Right. So the Demiurge looks at the visible realm, and what does he find? He finds chaos. Discordant, disorderly motion, a sort of primordial cosmic sludge, a mess, and he brings it into order, simply because he believes that order is intrinsically better than disorder. It's a fundamental axiom of his goodness.
And he doesn't stop there. He goes further.
He does. He reasons that an intelligent thing is better than an unintelligent thing. Order is good, but intelligent order is better. And you can't have intelligence, in the Greek view, without a soul, a psyche.
The soul is the principle of life and motion and thought.
So in a massive, elegant stroke of design, he puts intelligence in soul and soul in body. He frames the entire universe not as a dead machine, but as a living thing.
The cosmos is a world animal.
A single, spherical, living organism that contains all other living things inside it. It's alive. It thinks.
And Timaeus insists there is only one world. He explicitly rejects the idea of a multiverse or parallel universes.
Yes, and the logic is simple. If there were 2 worlds, they would have to exist within some larger space, and they would be parts of a larger whole. And that whole would then be the true one. The pattern is unique, so the copy must be unique.
Okay, so the architect is building the body of this world animal. He starts with the absolute basics, fire and earth.
The 2 extremes. Fire so we can see it because of light. Earth so we can touch it because it's solid. But, and here's where the math gets really, really real. You can't just squish fire and earth together and hope they stick.
Why not?
They're opposites. Timaeus says you need a bond. And he isn't just using bond as a metaphor. He's talking about a very specific mathematical concept.
The geometric mean. He calls it the most beautiful of bonds.
It is. Think of it like an engineering problem. You have fire, which is volatile, light, energetic. And you have earth, which is heavy, stable, inert. If you just mix them, they'll separate like oil and water. You need a mediator or a series of mediators to link them in a perfect, unbreakable chain.
Okay, walk us through this because it's a bit of a mind bender.
It is, but it's brilliant.
Yeah.
Timaeus says if the universe were a flat surface, like a sheet of paper or something 2D, you would only need one middle term to bind the 2 extremes.
Give us an example.
Okay, let's use 2 square numbers, like 4 and 9. 4 is 2 squared, 9 is 3 squared. To link them with a geometric mean, you find a number x, such that 4 is to x as x is to 9.
And that number is 6.
It's 6, 46 is 23, 69 is also 23. The ratio is continuous. So one number 6 perfectly locks the 2 extremes together on a flat plane.
Okay, I follow. One link is needed for a 2D surface.
But the universe isn't a sheet of paper. It's a solid. It has depth. It's 3D. And there's a strict rule in Greek mathematics regarding cubic numbers, numbers to the 3rd power.
What's that rule?
Between 2 cubes, you cannot find a single integer that is the mean proportional. It's mathematically impossible. You need 2 mean proportionals. To get from one cube to another, you need a ladder with 2 rungs in the middle.
So you can't just go fire nest mediator at Earth. It's not stable enough for a 3D world.
Exactly. You need 2 intermediaries. You need air and water. So the final formula for reality becomes fire is to air, as air is to water, and as water is to earth.
It's a continuous chain of proportion.
Yeah.
A 4-part harmony.
That's a great way to put it. And this mathematical deadlock binds the 4 elements of the cosmos together so tightly that Timaeus says no force can dissolve it except the creator himself.
That is surprisingly rigorous. He's essentially saying the elements aren't just random ingredients floating around. They are fixed variables in a universal equation.
It's the first attempt at a unified field theory. He's uniting all of matter through pure mathematics.
Okay, so that's the substance. What about the shape of this bound body?
It has to be a sphere. Timaeus argues it's the most perfect and most uniform figure because it comprehends all other figures within it. It's also the most efficient.
And he points out that the universe is smooth on the outside.
Yes, for very logical reasons. It has no eyes. Why? Because there is nothing outside of it to see.
It has no ears.
Because there is nothing outside to hear. It has no lungs. There is no outside air for it to breathe.
And my favorite detail, no digestive system.
This is the best part. It doesn't need to eat. It is designed to consume its own waste. It is, he says, autophagus. It feeds on its own decay.
That's a wild concept.
It is. Timaeus says the creator made it self-sufficient because dependence on others implies a weakness or a lack. The universe is a perfect, solitary, spherical God spinning on its axis in eternal contemplation of itself.
But a body, no matter how perfect, is just a shell without a soul. And in Timaeus' timeline, this is crucial, the soul is actually created before the body.
Always. Mind rules matter. The plan comes before the execution.
So this brings us to the famous mixing bowl passage. This is section 4, and it is notoriously dense. I mean, people write entire books in these few paragraphs.
They do. It's very tough, but let's try to break it down. The creator, the Demiurge, acts like a cosmic metallurgist or divine chef. He takes 3 primary ingredients.
What are they?
Ingredient 1, the indivisible. He calls it the same. This represents eternal consistency, identity, the unchanging nature of being.
Okay.
Ingredient 2, the divisible. He calls it the other. This represents difference, change, the chaotic nature of the physical world of becoming.
Same and other. So stability and change.
And then a third ingredient, which is a compound of the first 2, a sort of pre-existing blend of essence. He takes these 3 things and he mixes them all together in a great bowl.
And it's not an easy mix.
No, he says he has to force the other to mix with the same, even though they are resistant to each other. It's violent, cosmic blending. He creates a new substance that is a perfect hybrid of eternity and time, of being and becoming.
And then he divides this soldo.
He does. And he doesn't just cut it into random chunks. He divides it according to precise mathematical harmonic intervals.
The number.
Yes. He cuts it according to the series 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 9, 27. Now, if you know your math, you can see exactly what he's doing.
It looks like 2 different series combined.
It is. 1, 2, 4, 8 are the powers of 2, and 1, 3, 9, 27 are the powers of 3. He is structuring the soul of the entire universe according to the principles of musical harmony, the fundamental ratios that create octaves and fifths.
So the phrase music of the spheres isn't just a pretty poem for him. It's literal, mathematical, structural.
It is the deep structure of reality. And then, and this is the big astronomical part, he takes this long, mathematically divided strip of soul stuff, slices it down the middle lengthwise, creating 2 strips.
Okay.
Then he crosses the 2 strips in the middle, like the Greek letter X, which is chi, and he bends them into 2 intersecting circles, or hoops.
So you have to visualize this with us.
Yeah.
You have an X, and then you bend the arms of the X around to form 2 circles that are joined at the center but tilted relative to each other.
And what does this describe? It describes the structure of the heavens as seen from Earth, the celestial map.
How so?
The outer circle is the circle of the same. It moves horizontally to the right. This carries the fixed stars. It represents the unchangeable, predictable, 24-hour rotation of the cosmos, the laws of reason.
And the inner circle?
The inner circle is the other. It moves diagonally to the left against the first motion. This is the path of the planets, the ecliptic, the path of the wanderers.
And he splits this inner circle, doesn't he?
Right. He slices that inner circle into 7 unequal bands with different widths and speeds. These are the orbits of the 7 known celestial bodies: the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn.
Wow. So the world soul is literally the interaction between the perfect, unchanging order of the stars and the complex wandering path of the planets.
It's a dance between the same and the other, between stability and change. That dance is the intelligence of the universe.
And this movement, this dance, is what creates time.
Yes. Time, a moving image of eternity. This is one of the most profound and influential definitions in all of philosophy.
Let's unpack that. A moving image of eternity.
Timaeus argues that the eternal pattern, the world of being, it just exists. It exists all at once. It has no past or future, but the physical world moves. It changes. It can't be eternal in the same way.
So how does it imitate eternity?
The creator made time as a way to mimic eternity, using number and motion. The planets are the clock hands of the universe, measuring out the days, months, and years.
So without the planets, time doesn't exist.
Correct. Time isn't an empty container that the universe sits inside of. Time is a feature of the universe's motion. The concepts of was and will be are, he says, created forms of time, generated by the planetary dance. For the eternal, there is only is.
If you could stop the planets, you would stop time itself.
That's the idea.
Okay, let's zoom in now. We've done the macro of the soul and the body of the cosmos. Now, Timaeus takes us deep into the micro, the physics of geometry. He introduces a third kind of nature. We had being and becoming. What's the third?
The receptacle, the chora, which we can translate as space, but it's not empty space.
What is it then?
He uses a fantastic metaphor, the winnowing basket. In ancient agriculture, a winnowing basket is a tool you use to toss grain in the air. The shaking motion separates the heavy grain from the light chaff.
It's a sorting mechanism.
Exactly. Timaeus says space isn't a passive, empty void. It's shaking. It has a kind of inherent sway or vibration, and this shaking is what sorts the elementary particles into their proper places. Fire goes up, earth goes down.
And let's talk about those particles, because this is where Timaeus goes full matrix. He claims that the four elements, fire, air, earth, and water, are not the fundamental reality. They are not atoms in our sense. They are pixelated.
Pixelated is a perfect word for it. He argues that all solid bodies are bounded by planes or surfaces, and every flat plane, no matter how complex, can be resolved into triangles.
So the atomic unit of Plato's universe is the triangle.
It's the ultimate Lego brick of reality.
But not just any triangle. He's very, very specific.
Yes, he chooses the two most beautiful, most symmetrical right-angled triangles. First, the isosceles right-angled triangle. Imagine a perfect square that you cut in half along the diagonal.
Two 45-degree angles and one 90-degree angle.
Got it. And second, the scalene right-angled triangle. Specifically, the one you get if you slice a perfect equilateral triangle in half right down the middle.
The 30, 60, 90 triangle.
That's the one. And from these two tiny Lego bricks, he builds all of physical matter. This is the theory of the Platonic solids.
Okay, so let's build them.
Let's do it. Take 4 of those scalene triangles, the 30, 60, 90 ones, and glue their edges together. You get a 3-sided pyramid, a tetrahedron.
And Timaeus says, this is fire.
This is a particle of fire.
Why is the pure fire? What's the logic?
Think about the qualities of fire. It's mobile, it's light, and it's sharp. It hurts. Why does fire burn you? Timaeus says it's because it's literally stabbing you.
You're joking.
Not at all. The fire particle is a tiny microscopic shiv. It has the sharpest angles and the sharpest edges of all the 5 solids. When you feel heat, you are feeling billions of tiny pyramids penetrating and cutting your flesh.
That is such a tactile, visceral way to explain physics. Heat isn't some abstract energy. Heat is sharpness.
Right. Now take those same scalene triangles, but use 8 of them. Pack them into a denser shape, an octahedron with 8 faces. That's air.
Okay, bit more stable.
A bit. Now use 20 of them. Pack them even denser into an icosahedron with 20 faces. This shape is much more spherical. It's blunt. Timaeus says this is water. It's heavy, it's sluggish, it rolls over things rather than cutting them.
So fire, air, and water are all made of the exact same Lego brick, just arranged differently.
Yes, all from the scalene triangle. And this is the massive insight of the whole system. Because they are made of the same fundamental parts, they are interchangeable. This is the first robust theory of transmutation in Western thought.
He just invented chemistry.
He did. He says you can take one particle of water, the 20-sided one, break it apart, and reassemble the triangles to make 2 particles of air and 1 of fire. The math works out perfectly. It explains phase changes, like water turning to steam.
But then there's Earth, the odd one out.
Yes, Earth is the cube, the most stable, solid figure. And crucially, the cube is built from the other triangle, the isosceles triangle, the one from cutting a square.
So it has a different fundamental particle.
A different operating system. Because it uses a different brick, Earth cannot transform into the other 3 elements. You can smash a rock, but its little cubic particles are still rock. It can't turn into water or fire because the geometry is fundamentally incompatible.
So we have a geometric theory of matter that explains density, sensation, phase changes.
And even other qualities. Cold isn't a thing in itself, it's just the compression of your own body's particles by larger invading particles. It's a purely mechanical system.
Okay, let's descend from the cosmos to the human being. Section 6, the creation of man. This is where the Demiurge delegates the work, right? He subcontracts.
He does. The Demiurge himself makes the immortal part of the human soul our reason. He uses the leftovers from the world soul's mixing bowl. But he tells the lesser gods, which are the stars and planets he just created, that they have to make the mortal bodies.
Why does he do that?
He gives a reason. He says, if I make the bodies myself, they will be immortal and perfect like me. But the universe needs mortal creatures to be complete. So you guys handle the plumbing and the messy parts. It also conveniently absolves him of being the direct cause of evil and imperfection.
So our bodily flaws and failures are basically because we were built by his apprentices.
Exactly. And the anatomy they come up with is, well, it's deeply symbolic. It's a physical map of the soul's hierarchy.
Okay, so how do they build us?
They start with the head. It's spherical, mimicking the perfect shape of the universe. So naturally, they put the immortal soul, our reason, in the head. The head is the divine citadel.
And then the neck.
The neck is the isthmus. It's a narrow land bridge designed to separate the divine rational head from the chaotic mortal body so that the body doesn't pollute the mind too much.
A buffer zone. Then the thorax, the chest.
That's where they place the spirited part of the mortal soul. Things like courage, ambition, anger, passion. They put it right below the neck, close to the head, so it can hear the commands of reason and act as its ally in controlling the lower parts.
It's the soldier, stationed between the king and the mob.
A perfect analogy. And finally, the abdomen, the belly.
The mob.
The mob. This is the appetitive part. Food, drink, sex, all the primal desires. Timaeus says this part is chained up like a wild animal, as far away from the council chamber of the head as possible, so its roaring doesn't disturb the deliberations of reason.
But the most fascinating organ in this entire account has to be the liver.
Oh, the liver is the absolute star of the show. It's a stroke of bizarre genius.
I read a lot of philosophy, and usually the brain or the heart gets all the credit for consciousness, but Timaeus describes the liver as a kind of biological mirror or screen.
It's the user interface for the soul. Think about it. The wild beast in your belly doesn't understand logic. You can't explain a syllogism to your stomach when it's hungry or angry. It needs pictures. It needs feelings.
So the Demiurge's apprentices install a screen.
They do. The liver is described as being dense, smooth, and bright, like a polished mirror.
And the reason in the head acts as the projector.
Exactly. When reason wants to warn the beast, hey, that's a bad idea, don't eat that poison, it projects terrifying and bitter thoughts onto the liver. The liver physically wrinkles up, gets dark and mottled, and secretes bile. The beast in the belly looks at the liver, sees this horrifying, bitter image, and feels pain and nausea. It gets scared into submission.
It's behavior modification via internal horror movie.
It is. And when reason wants to soothe the beast, it projects pleasant, sweet thoughts. The liver becomes smooth and shiny and calm. The beast feels happy and content. The liver is the GY, the graphical user interface that translates the abstract code of the mind into the simple icons of sensation.
And this explains divination too.
It does. Timaeus says the liver is the seat of prophecy. But, and this is a key skeptical point from Plato himself, he says this only works when reason is asleep or suppressed.
In dreams or sickness or divine madness.
Right. In those states, the liver can pick up divine signals or future echoes. But a person in that trance cannot interpret what they are seeing. They are just the receiver. You need a sane, rational person, a prophet interpreter, to come along later and figure out what the liver data actually means.
No man, when in his wits, attains prophetic truth and inspiration.
Precisamente. The prophet is just the antenna. The philosopher is the decoder.
We also get it.
One is when the elements get reversed, like flesh turning back into blood. Another is when the triangles that form your body just get old and unloose. Old age is just the glue holding your triangles together failing.
So what's his medical advice?
It's surprisingly modern in a way. He's very against drugs. He says disease has a natural life cycle, a sort of ordained course. If you attack it with strong drugs, you just irritate it and make it worse or more complicated.
So what's the cure?
Regimen, what he calls gymnastic, a balance of diet and exercise. Let nature run its course and support the body's natural state.
Always with the gym. Now, we have to touch on section 7, the hierarchy of life. This is the part that usually gets a nervous laugh or a groan from modern readers.
It can be a tough one. It's the theory of transmutation, or rather, reincarnation downwards.
Yes. So Timaeus asserts that the original prototype humans, the first batch created by the gods, were all men.
All men. That was the default model.
And women. Where do they come from?
Well, according to Timaeus, women were created from the souls of men who were cowards or who lived unrighteous lives in their first incarnation. It's a punishment. If you fail at being a rational, courageous man, you come back as a woman.
Ouch. That has not aged well. And it goes downhill from there.
It does. The next step down is birds. Birds were created from light-minded men. These were men who were curious about the heavens, astronomers, maybe. But they were silly. They were empiricists. They thought they could learn the truth just by looking at the stars with their eyes, rather than using pure mathematics and reason.
So as a punishment for being bad scientists.
The gods gave them feathers and wings so they could fly around and get a closer look at the things they were so obsessed with.
So every bird you see is just a failed philosopher who trusted his senses too much.
Exactly. Then you get land animals. These came from men who had no philosophy at all and just followed their passions. Their heads were literally dragged down to the earth by the weight of their own irrationality, so they evolved to walk on four legs.
And the lowest of the low.
The fish and the shellfish. These were the souls of the most ignorant, senseless men. The gods deemed them unworthy of even breathing pure air, so they banished them to the muddy depths of the water to choke in the murk for all eternity.
So the entire animal kingdom is essentially a cosmic prison system for failed human souls.
It's a moral taxonomy expressed as biology. Every animal is a former human serving a sentence that fits their specific intellectual crime.
That is a lot to take in. Before we get to our thought experiments, let's wrap up with Jowett's critical analysis. We've been living inside Timaeus' head for the last hour. What does Jowett, the critical scholar, make of all this in the end?
Jowett is very balanced. He acknowledges the repulsive obscurity, as we said. He points out the fundamental confusion. Plato is constantly mixing up theological causes, like the good, with physical causes, like the triangles. He doesn't keep them separate.
And he also criticizes the method.
Yes, and this is crucial. He notes the total lack of experimentation. The Greeks observed nature, but they didn't test it. They relied on grand, sweeping analogies. The world is like a man, the soul is like a state, rather than forming a hypothesis and then trying to falsify it.
But he still calls it a grand effort. He's not just dismissing it.
Not at all, because it is a grand effort. Despite all the errors, the triangles, the liver mirror, the birdmen, Plato gave Western civilization the schema for science. He gave us the core idea that the universe is fundamentally mathematical and knowable. He gave us the concept of natural law, this circle of the same that never deviates. He gave us the first theory of fundamental particles. He taught the West that the world is not a random accident or the whim of petty gods, but an intelligible, beautiful order.
So the specifics were almost all wrong, but the ambition, the method of looking for a single rational mathematical order, that was right.
That was the game-changing contribution.
Yeah. We've done the history, the math, the anatomy, the cosmic justice system. Now it's time to play jazz with these ideas.
My favorite part.
Are you ready for the thought experiments?
I am always ready.
Okay. Disclaimer time for everyone listening. The following scenarios are for entertainment and educational purposes only. We are pitching outlandish but plausible philosophical thought experiments inspired by the work we've just discussed.
Let's do it.
Experiment number 1. The biofeedback liver AI.
Ooh, I like this already.
Here's the concept. Plato suggests the liver is a biological screen for the irrational mind to receive messages, warnings, and reassurances from the rational mind. It translates logic into physical sensation.
The bitter and the sweet.
Exactly. So here is the scenario. In the near future, we build a Neuralink-style implant that's called the digital liver. It connects your prefrontal cortex, the seat of reason, directly to your vagus nerve in your endocrine system, the heart of the belly.
So it's an internal moral monitor, a conscience with hardware.
Yes, it runs a constant background fact-checking and ethics algorithm based on your own stated values. Let's say you were about to make a terrible financial decision, driven by greed, or you're about to tell a lie to get out of trouble, or you were about to cheat on your partner.
Your rational brain knows it's wrong, but your appetite, the beast in the belly, wants to do it.
The AI intercepts the logical contradiction. It stimulates your vagus nerve. You physically taste bile. You feel a wave of nausea. You get the full bitter liver response in real time.
So instead of a guilty conscience, you get a literal stomachache. The uh-oh feeling becomes a physical event.
But on the flip side, if you finally wrap your head around a complex truth, or you perform a genuinely altruistic act, the AI stimulates a rush of dopamine and sweetness. You physically taste honey on your tongue. You feel a warm glow.
This is fascinating because it completely bypasses the need for education in the Platonic sense. Plato thought the masses, the belly part of society, couldn't be taught philosophy. They had to be controlled by noble lies, myths, and images.
This technology accepts that premise and says, don't try to teach people ethics. Just make being unethical physically painful and unpleasant.
So the implication is, would that make us a genuinely moral society? Or would it just make us a society of very well-trained Pavlovian dogs who are terrified of feeling nauseous?
Doesn't matter. If I don't steal the money because I don't want to vomit, am I actually a good person? Plato's Demiurge might say, who cares? The result is order. The world is more beautiful and less chaotic.
It creates perfect behavior modification without any need for moral agency. A terrifyingly efficient utopia.
Experiment number 2. The geometric reshuffling of reality. Concept. Timaeus claims matter is just geometry. The theory of transmutation. Fire, air, and water are all just different arrangements of the same scaling triangle.
The universal Lego brick.
Scenario.
Yeah.
We invent a triangle slicer. It's a technology, maybe some kind of focused quantum field, that operates at the subatomic geometric level. It doesn't smash atoms like we do now. It gently unfolds them into their constituent triangles and then reassembles them.
Molecular origami on an industrial scale.
Precisely. We take a landfill, a huge pile of garbage that's mostly earth particles, cubes, and other messy compounds. We use the machine to slice all that matter back into its component triangles and reassemble them into clean water and pure air.
You could solve the climate crisis and the resource crisis in a single day. You don't mine for resources anymore. You reconfigure what you already have.
Exactly. You turn toxic waste into fresh air. You turn desert sand into fertile soil.
But here is the Timaeus trap. There's always a trap.
Always.
Remember, fire is the pyramid. It's the tetrahedron. It's sharp. It cuts. It's the most dangerous and unstable of the solids. What if, while we are busy slicing the water triangles of the rising sea levels to fix climate change, the machine glitches?
A software bug.
A software bug in the operating system of reality. What if it accidentally reconfigures a few trillion tons of seawater, not into air, but into fire triangles?
You don't just get a big fire, you get a fundamental geometric rewrite of the substance of the ocean.
You turn the Pacific Ocean into a weapon, a sea of microscopic knives. The atmosphere essentially becomes a cloud of razor blades. It's not just destruction, it's a phase shift of reality itself into something hostile to life.
It explores the ultimate danger of manipulating the fundamental code of the universe. If reality is just code, or in this case geometry, then a bug in that code doesn't just crash the app, it deletes existence as we know it.
It turns Plato's likely story into a terrifyingly real engineering problem. It reminds us that if the universe really is a beautifully constructed machine, we should be very, very careful about opening the hood and messing with the parts.
So, to synthesize this whole deep dive, the Timaeus gave us the blueprint for a mathematical universe. It gave us that powerful one-world concept, a single, living, breathing, intelligent organism.
And it reminds us that even with all our advanced science, our super colliders, and our space telescopes, we are still just telling likely stories. We are still trying to fit the messy, beautiful chaos of becoming into the elegant, perfect order of being.
I want to leave you and everyone listening with one final provocative thought to mull over.
Let's hear it.
Plato argues that time is just a moving image of eternity, a mechanism created only when the universe began, driven by the motion of the planets. It's not fundamental, it's a feature. So if we ever manage to stop the motion of the universe, to halt the clocks, the planets, the arrow of entropy, do we step out of time and back into the still landscape of eternity? Or do we simply cease to exist? And are we right now just the dream of that eternal animal, a flicker in the mind of the cosmos?
Something to ponder.
Thanks for joining this deep dive from Talk Treatises.
See you next time.
Stay curious.